So today I'm going to be talking about the most important phase in the career of a young footballer. Now, what is this phase? In my opinion, is from 14 to 18. I feel like 14 to 18, these are the years where you have to sort of develop your skills, get a good head on your shoulder, you understand? Develop your skills, develop a work ethic as well, and actually figure out, yo, is this really what I want to do, you understand? Because I feel like with the ages from 14 to 18, that's when life really happens. That's when you actually see things in life happen to you where it can sort of derail players' football career. You know, when you're 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old, you know, what's it called? Everything's just happy, you know what I'm saying? Everything's just happy, you're just smiling, you're playing with your friends, you don't really get life. I feel like it's only when you get to like 14 years old is when you start to see, you know, things popping up that can actually derail your career. Obviously, you got things like, you know, what's it called? You got your distractions, like, you know, your friends. You want to start going to parties. You understand? Obviously, you're hitting puberty as well, so obviously you're starting to look at girls differently. You understand? Obviously, you got alcohol, you got drugs, all these different things that can, you know, can derail your football career. You understand? Obviously, you got them sort of vices. I remember Peter Crouch was saying that, yo, he wanted to go to the parties, but his dad was like, yo, do you really want to go? Like, his dad was basically just saying, yo, in order to do what you want to do, you're going to have to sacrifice, you understand? In order to be different and stand out and become a Premier League player, you can't be doing everything else. You can't be doing things that, you know, other people are doing, you understand? It takes sacrifice. So he was literally saying that, yo, he would literally go to parties at like, what, 10 p.m, he'd spend an hour there, and then he'd come back home straight away. And if you go to parties, you know that, bro, 11 p.m, nothing's really happened yet, you know what I'm saying? Nothing's really happened. Things only start happening like after midnight, to be honest. But yeah, he was saying that, yo, he used to go from 10 p.m. to like 11 p.m, come back home again early night, probably go to training the next day, you understand? And I feel like in this phase, like I said, there's so many distractions that pop up, and there's so many external factors as well, things that might not even be players' fault, you understand? There's situations where a kid might be 50, you know, he's in an academy, he's playing well, and then guess what? His parents get divorced, you understand? Parents get divorced, maybe his dad was taking him to all his football games, but now he doesn't have his dad in his life. He doesn't have his dad to push him. You understand? And obviously, this takes a toll on his mental, and then maybe he's not training as hard as he once was. Maybe with his dad was, you know, taking him down to the park or taking him down to the Astro, you understand? Maybe he was training, you know, 5 times a week, 6 times a week. But that 5-6 times a week now is down to 2-3, excluding the matches. Now it's down to like 2 times a week, 3 times a week. And then those other kids that are in the academy with him, you know, they're still training 5 times a week, 6 times a week. And then obviously, you know, over time that's gonna compound. So obviously he might end up getting left behind. You know, the other kids are just sort of picking up the nuances of the game a lot quicker than him. The other kids are learning different skills, learning how to use both feet. Learning how to, you know, just little things, scanning their shoulders, working on their first touch, working on their weight of pass. It's just gonna be that, obviously, because they're playing more, they're just more sharper, they're just more crisp. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, they're just more sharp, more crisp. It's almost like they're one with the ball. You know, when you train every single day, like a professional, you just end up becoming one with the ball. Like I've seen it myself, where it's like when I've let's say over Christmas or in the summer, something like that, or during Easter, when I'm literally playing ball every single day, after like 7 straight days of playing, it's almost like you don't even need to warm up. You just get the ball, and you feel like you've been playing for like half an hour already. You feel warm, you feel fresh, because it's that repetition, you know, every single day. So if that kid's not getting that, and the other kids in the academy are getting that, it's sort of like, yo, obviously he's gonna be left behind. Maybe he gets released, and then after he gets released, he can just never bounce back, simply because there's something that's out of his control, or maybe another family member dies, you understand? And then that takes a mental toll on the player. So I feel like with the ages from 14 to 18, it's almost like a 5-year crash course where you just have to sort of just navigate as a player. It's almost like survival of the fittest, where it's like you just have to sort of navigate and just hope. Not hope, actually, just sort of take it into your own hands, in my opinion. Just make sure you take everything into your own hands. No matter what setbacks you might face, just be like, yo, I just need to get through this period. And even if by 18 you want to put yourself in a good position, you understand? Even if you're not, you know, lining up making your Premier League debut at 18, at least, you know, being in and amongst the first team, you understand? Being in amongst the first team, maybe you're even starting games, and just put yourself in a good position. You don't have to, you know, arrive at 18, but just put yourself in a good position so that you arrive at 20 or 21 or 22, you understand? by the end of that sort of filter, you know, I call it like 14 to 18 is sort of like a player filter, where it's like, yo, you get all these guys playing football from the start, and trust me, once you go down the ages 14, 15, 16, you'll start to see players dropping off. Maybe it was their fault that they dropped off, or maybe it was external factors, you know. Maybe they got caught up in, you know, maybe drinking too much, taking drugs, you know what I'm saying? And that ultimately had an effect on their performance. Or maybe it's just, like I said, the external factors, where it's like parents split up, family members died, their household is just chaotic, you understand? So there's just so many different factors, and like I said, 14 to 18, it's just like a crash course, where it's like you just have to just make sure by the time you get to, you know, 17 and then 18, you just put yourself in a good position. Even if it's not your time yet to arrive, you put yourself in a position where maybe in a year, 19, it's your time, 20, it's your time, even 22, it's your time, you understand? So maybe you're not, you know, because the thing is with footballers, not everybody's ready at 18. I know, you know, we see professional footballers now, we see Kobe Mainoo, Bellingham, Yamal, all these guys, you know, coming through, making their debuts 17, 18, or even Yamal was like 15, I swear, 16, but yeah, 16, 17, 18, 19, but some guys just aren't ready, but they've put themselves in a good position at 18, and then maybe 20 or 21, that's when they're ready to, you know, step into the light and really take off, you understand? So in my opinion, the age is from 14 to 18, like I said, because football is a young man's game as well. The reason why it's so difficult, I feel like, is that 14 to 18, if you actually deep it, it's so young. Like, you don't really, it's very rare you'll find like a 14-year-old who's got their head on their shoulders, who knows, okay, cool, I need to stay away from this, I need to stay away from this, you know, I can't have fun right now, but I need to sacrifice all the fun right now in order to get what I want later. You don't meet many 14-year-olds like that. Like me personally, I wasn't like that until, I didn't start thinking like that until I was like, what, probably like 15, 16, and even at 15, 16, it wasn't like mad. It wasn't like I had like a high comprehension of like, alright, cool, I can't do this, but I need to do this, you understand? It's only really when you get to maybe 16, 17, 18, but I feel like that's why it's very important to have good role models around you, understand? That's why a lot of the times these academy kids, they always have like good parents who push them, mostly it's their dad, but even some people it's their mom as well, where it's like they just keep them on track. Even the story I told about Peter Crouch, his dad was always there just to tell him, yo, just stay on course, because imagine if his dad wasn't there, bro, you know, he'd probably go to the parties, you know what I'm saying, drink, meet a couple people who you would consider as a bad influence, and then, you know, maybe he starts missing training, maybe he starts, you know, missing school and doing all of that, and then boom, football career just goes downhill, you know, his performances goes downhill, you know, he never makes it at the academy, and it's like, yo, you would have never heard of him, you understand? So I feel like as a young player, it's very important to have that role model there, you know, that person there that's always there to push you, that older person who's always there to push you. Maybe it's a parent, maybe it's an auntie or uncle, maybe it's your friend's parents, you understand? Maybe you're in an academy right now, or you're on a team right now where it's like, maybe your parents aren't really involved in your football career, but your friends' parents are involved in there, so you can sort of, you know, learn from them, learn from your friends' parents. But yeah, I feel like as a young player, it's very good to have, you know, role models around you. Just someone to give you that kick up the arse, you understand? Someone to tell you, yo, you don't do this, you don't do that. Because at 14, 15, 16, you don't really know any better. Like I said, it's so young. I don't expect people to, you know the concept of, you know, having discipline, you know, waking up early, like, doing all of that. Obviously, it's ideal if you do, but more likely it's not. At 14, 15, you just want to chill with your friends, you know, have fun, you know, you're not really thinking about your diet, you understand? So it's important for people to, you know, to be there. But even if you don't have that person and you are those ages, it's sort of like, yo, you just have to sort of just try your best to just filter out the distractions and just sort of put your head into what's important, you know. You're getting better as a footballer, your schoolwork. You just sort of have to just learn to enjoy the work, in my opinion. Just try and make it as fun as possible, you know. Try and make your football drills as fun as possible. And just remember that, yo, I know 4 years, when you're 14 years old, 4 years sounds like a long time, you understand? But trust me, me being 19 right now, those years will fly by, bro. Like, especially, let's say UK in secondary school. I know everyone's had that time where it's like you're year 7, and then you look at year 11s and you think, oh, that's decades away. You're year 7, 11, 12 years old, and you think that's decades away. bro, in a flash like that, you're doing your GCSEs, bro. I remember back in school with year 7, we'd walk past the year 11s doing their GCSEs, and I'd be thinking, raw, that is so long away. Like, I'm not even thinking about that. Me and my boys were saying, yo, bro, we can't even imagine doing our GCSEs. And just like that, we walked past that same hall, but this time we weren't walking past the hall, we were walking into the hall, bro. And I remember year 7, I remember that moment in year 7 where I was like, damn, like this shit has actually gone quick, you know what I'm saying? So, like I said, if you're 14, 15 years old right now, and you think, but I have to sacrifice fun for, all these years, trust me, it doesn't feel that long, you understand? It doesn't feel like 6 months will go like that, a year will go like that, and then by the time you're 18, you're gonna actually thank yourself that, yo, you put in the work, you put yourself in a good position, even if it's not your time to, time to take off, play for a first team, play at a very high level. You've put yourself in a position where it's like you've developed a work ethic, you've developed a skill set, you understand? You know your position, you're dedicated, you're in good shape, you've developed good habits, you understand? And you're focused, you know what you want from the game of football, you understand? So that's what it's all about in my opinion. But yeah, 14 to 18, the most important phase in a young footballer's career. But that's all I've got to say for this vid. Hope you enjoyed. I've been JT, and I'm out.